is a fundamental principle in democracy, that there can be no taxation without representation. Now what this means is that the state or the government should not be entitled to compulsorily make people pay revenue to them unless people have the right of representation within the government. Now if one uses this principle in relation to local government, as you know, you pay assessment towards local government, and in some cases quite substantial, then fundamentally the concept of elected local government is something very close to the principle of no taxation without representation, and is essential part of a growing democracy. If one takes a sample of 200 over countries in the world, some 180 have local government elections. So I think from a philosophical, from a perspective in terms of a modern democracy, I think the position that there must be local government elections is very clear.
From our 1 to 2 years experience as a local councillor, we felt that more than ever convinced that local election, you have to do it. When it comes to accountability, if you have local election, only then the idea of accountability makes sense, because you are accountable to the people. By you being appointed, where does that accountability stop, or where does it begin? I think as a temporary measure, I don't see anything wrong for appointed councillors to do their work. But I think in the end, the idea is all these councillors are there to fill the gap until a full-blown system is put in place as far as local elections.
I believe very strongly that we must have a roadmap for local government elections, because that is the grassroots democracy. That is where the people are most engaged with government, local authority level, and they pay rates, they pay taxes to the local authorities. As such, they must have representation in deciding who their representatives in local authority must be.
Bring back the local council, then let the people decide, not a bunch of politicals sitting there to decide, and based on their, I don't know what interest there might be, you know. Sometimes it could be, it's not, things that I'm saying are not new. Every taxi driver and char kway teow man on the street will know this. These are all these utang budi things, you know. Some group of local chapter chairman comes around and say, hey, I want this guy inside the council. If not, you can forget about my support.
There's no political will at the top, at the bigger level, to reintroduce what your mother went through and some of our older generation. We had that third vote in our hands. We like you or we didn't like you, we had a voice. But now that voice is sort of not there for the last 40 over years. And in the last 2 years, Selangor introduced this percentage as a temporary measure. And I'm using the word temporary, meaning that that cannot be the way. It's a temporary measure because, as Jeffrey said, our call is we want to restore local council election.
I agree that we should not, when you mean the Menteri Besar, we should not be talking about the 25% quota. And I think forget it totally. And tell them we wasted our time listening to you, 25%. We want election.
But the point is, how do you judge? Where's the criteria? Is it just like blanket statement by some people to say that, oh, this guy is not performing, kick him out? I see a lot of non-performing councillors everywhere, still in. Why? So the appointment letters, nobody knows. It's a mystery, you know. Until today, they called us for swearing yesterday, and early in the morning, they call up and say that, at least they call up, lucky, you know. Sometimes they don't. MB says postpone it, you know.
Why is it postponed? Any idea?
Why is it postponed? It's very obvious, no? The lists are all in a mess. And everybody is lobbying for their position.
To express concern on a divider near his area, which had broken and crumbled when a car went across it or a vehicle was tried to park on it. And he was shocked as to how could a divider, which is meant to protect the safety of vehicles on either side of the lane, could crumble. I immediately attended to the problem, went on site and asked him to recover samples of that divider. To my shock and awe, when I looked at it, the divider consisted of a few millimeters of plaster and a huge chunk of sand. And Obviously, this divider was not built according to the specifications. I refer the matter to Head of Engineering, who promptly attended to my complaint. In fairness to him, he did it, he looked at it, he also told me this is not concrete. I brought the sample there. There's no aggregate in it. And the specifications for this concrete is grade 20. Not less than grade 20 at least. And from a practical point, you understand what that means. A certain grade of concrete requires a certain quantity of cement, sand, and aggregate. And by playing with these, the cost of that is very cheap if you do not put in the specified quantity. So I said action should be taken. I then took the own initiative for myself, because I've noticed I received other complaints around other parts of Petaling Jaya, to go around and look at the pavement. I photographed them all, I went through, and I was concerned about the quality, which Dato in your opening speech had addressed. Why is the quality like this? We are paying what is fair market value, and there's no value for money. The Auditor General recently said all procurements must be value for money. And the first thing in value for money is honesty. When you are asked to do a job, these are the specifications. I'm not talking about the difference between grade 20 and grade 18 or grade 15. I'm talking the difference between grade 20 and grade 0. To me, it was a simple case of cheating. As a lawyer of 25 years, you try to claim on something you did not do, knowing full well it was not up to the specifications, claim money from the City Council. That's cheating.
Now, on top of that, taken together with the fact that the people want it, I think there should be no reason why it should be delayed any further. After all, it was the position in Malaysia until the confrontation period where it was suspended. And in fact, after the confrontation period, the government actually did pass an act of parliament called the Local Government Elections Act and stood by for local government elections, but they never implemented that act. So that certainly shows that the situation in Malaysia was always local government elections. It was only suspended for a period of time, but it should be brought back.
Principle on the election or transparency, accountability, it's not only about the will to do it using money or budget. It's about the empowerment of the community in the grassroots, and also for them to engage in the governance.
I feel that at the end of the day, it's not the money, it's not the typical process, and it's not that whether these people, they sit down there and they will get more dirty, and this is what you and I don't want to see, and that is where this election process is one of the platform, one of the processes for us to push for a better, cleaner Malaysia.